Okay, let's see. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We get to see Joseph McGuire 2 months in a row, so that's a treat. Joseph is from Mount Vernon, Washington at KSVR, and he's going to talk to us about multi-track recording, which we're all very keen on. So I'll turn it over to you, Joseph.
All righty. Well, I hope this lasts a while, but we'll see here. So first thing, of course, I'm going to share my screen because I have samples of what I'm going to do. I don't have a presentation. I just want to show some samples. And so I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to go to, come on, Reaper, pop up. There we go. So, and then switched over, you're in my way. And oh, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share computer sound. You should be able to hear what I'm saying, and I'm going to hide, there we go, hide flitter view. Anyway, so I'm going to switch over to what I call samples. I took up some samples here. And so the first kind of situations that you would get into, or the kinds of situations you would get into with having each person on an individual track is, and the solutions to those problems are crosstalk, people talking over each other, background talk where someone might, another microphone, like if you're in the same room, another microphone would pick up sort of a faint echo because it's picking up, specifically if you have a person who has a very projective voice. Coughs, noise, specifically if you're using an online tool like Zoom or Iris or Riverside or Zencast or whatever. Sometimes people have sounds going off the background, like sirens. Now, if it's at the same time as they are talking, it's almost impossible to get rid of it. You might be able to use a fixing tool to sort of reduce it, but this is just talking about the differences or what you can do when the person isn't talking and the other side is picking up such, the silent side. So if we go to the first example, we have, now I'm going to play back. Everybody hear this?
Very exciting to be able.
Okay, good. So we have, this is from a remote interview. And in remote interviews, you can have what I call loopback. So someone's using their microphone on their computer, they're not wearing headphones, and what happens is that it picks it up as a background sound in the person when the person isn't speaking. So this is what it kind of sounds like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not it. Yeah, that's it. So
absolutely. Yes. Well,
anyway, so you can get rid of those by just, deleting them. And then this is a little bit of her cross talking over someone.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I am. Very exciting.
So, you can literally just delete them.
Or
and so you can just delete them. So now you don't have any crosstalk. If you were doing this in mono, you would not be able to do that. And
for animals.
And then you can see sometimes there's stuff in there that you don't hear, but it's always good to get rid of. A lot of times you might want to just get rid of the background. And I'm using Reaper, but you can do this, I think, in most digital audio workstations. I just use Reaper. And
thanks for joining me.
And that's another one. You can just sort of go in there and delete that part there. And then
yeah, I like that a lot.
And then sometimes there's noise in the background. Now, if you listen to this,
she even sent me a
you can
tape
kind of hear
recorder.
noise in his background. So there's not much you can do about that. But when you listen to this,
Fled to France in about 1965. And they're talking in that book.
and so that you can get rid of by just basically deleting it because it's unnecessary information. And so now you don't have it.
Smaller village.
A lot of people don't find it interesting that you can actually leave dead silence there. But the talking is adding the sound. So there's no really big difference between the sound without,
how much of the story is,
or the sound with,
how much of the,
except that there's no noise. And then in a live studio situation, we have, I'm not sure what to call it. It's a form of crosstalk. It's a form of the background of a person who has a projective voice. If you're in a smaller room, even if you have good foam and stuff, is it can be picked up by another mic. And so if you kind of listen, you can hear Dave Johnson, who's here.
For the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. We haven't been able to do it for the past couple of years. You know why?
Kind of
we're able to have
reverberation to his voice. And if you get rid of him,
be honest, one of my favorite
now you can hear it
when I get to talk to the key back ambassadors for the Skagit Valley.
So that's being picked up by the other
microphones. We
microphones.
haven't been able to do it for the past couple of years. You know why? But we're able.
So
there's more than one microphone for him?
No. Each person has their own microphone.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
I
so,
see.
yes. So now we can get rid of that. That's a good question. And we can get rid of that. And we can get rid of, this is something she says. So now
Carter C. is a fifth grader,
sounds much
and
more
Harper McCown is a fourth
present.
grader. They both go
His
to Conway
presence
School.
sounds much better. He doesn't sound like he's kind of distant from the microphone.
Got it.
And then,
with us.
Thanks for having me.
And so in this case, other people weren't, Dave Johnson, the interviewer, has got a very projective voice. So it's picked up on by a lot of microphones.
I see.
And so,
I didn't know that happened.
oh yes. I learned that lesson the hard way with Radio Theater Project, and you stuff like 6 people in a room all speaking and talking dialogue. Anyway, so any questions about that? Okay. The other thing that you can do with multi-tracking, and I think this is a really important thing, and that is when you're dealing with a single monotrack, you can't do much about the balance of sound between the two. You can go in and spend your life selecting a certain element and then normalizing it.
Yes, preach.
And well, in this case, you don't have to. Oops. What did I do? Oh, I know what I did. Sorry. That brings back the meeting controls. Okay, anyway. And so so in this case with Reaper or Audition or others, you can I can call these up into a program. Like for instance, I can call it up into what I use, which is Isotope. So I can call this up and I can bring it into Isotope. And then work on each individual. So like, for instance, you won't be able to hear this because it's too complex to set up for here. Anyway, so you can go, well, I'm going to make her sound better by normalizing. And so I'll normalize her voice. and then I'll normalize her voice. So each individual is being made to sound the same in loudness, and then I can save it. And then now all of a sudden the audio is now for each person individually the same loudness.
Nice.
So if you go here,
Someone who has enough stock to go
a little closer to that.
and sell the art. How does that work?
Yeah, it's fun because
So now if you so now you have a recording that is balanced. So if we go back to the samples, you see you had in the studio, you had 4 different people, and you can't possibly purposely, you can try and mic them so they're all the same, but it's much easier to do this in post-production. Any questions?
That's awesome. Marie, you have
Yes.
a question?
Yeah. You said that you need to have a stereo recording.
Well, okay. I guess this is a good time to go into that. When we went into the pandemic and I discovered Squadcast, later Iris, or any of the other ones, or Zoom, because every so often I'd have to use Zoom, and found out multi-tracking, I talked to our engineer on staff and I said to him, Ben, I'm not going back to mono-track editing. So what we have is what's called an Allen Heath digital mixer or audio board. And it's basically, you can send a audio track from each microphone into a track in your digital audio workstation. So it's just like using Zoom or Iris or Squadcast or Riverside. You get multiple tracks. And so that's how come each person is on their own track, because each person's microphone is recorded in their own track. Does that help? And
So you're changing it into stereo.
no, this is okay, multi-track, meaning that's okay. Let me define. Mono and stereo are basic audio that you can listen to on various devices, radios, records. Mono means the whole channel, and if you have 2 speakers, then you'll hear both on the same side equally. Stereo is a tied together track, left and right.
Right.
Multi-tracking means that you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different tracks, right, that are each mono, or they could be stereo.
Okay.
But each track is one or the other.
Right.
And so when you save it in Reaper after you've recorded it, it makes each person their own audio file. That's a good question. I hadn't thought about answering exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about multiple tracks, so that each audio file can be individually processed.
Right.
And the audio file can be either mono or stereo.
Yes.
And if you want to mix it down to stereo, you can, or mix it down to mono, which I think it's radio. It's, I could put each person on their own stereo side if I wanted to.
Okay.
And so you can have, as many tracks as you have people.
Right.
That's pretty much the whole ball game when you're dealing with, if there's any questions, that's pretty much the whole ball game for dealing with multi-tracks and why I can't go back to mono. Single track editing.
Yeah, it looks kind of intimidating at first, but I remember when you said it's actually easier.
Yeah,
It
it's easier
saves
to do
time.
the editing and saves time.
Yeah.
Well, so like for instance, if we go back to here, did you go away? When you go back to this one I was working on, let's say you want to get rid of this little space here between the two. Here's another use case. Let's say you're online and you have latency. Now you can do this in mono tracking, but you can still do this and you could actually see it easier. And so let's say I had a little space here and I wanted to get rid of it. And I'm going to use what's called the razor edit tool in Reaper. And then I can delete it. And then I can move them together using something called ripple edit. And so now they're closer. Or let's say.
Highly agree. I highly agree.
So yeah, let's get rid of this here. Like that.
So.
And well, we don't want that anymore either. So we'll do that. And so we'll just move together and keeping them in sync like that.
So,
and there you go. So you can keep them in sync using.
So you have to turn on a certain
kind of yes, it's called ripple
mode
editing.
or something to make them stay in sync like that when you do that.
Yes.
Okay.
It's this little button up here. It's disabled. I set up a keyboard shortcut, but you can turn it on so you can ripple edit one track. So you see as I move it around, it's staying there.
Mm-hmm.
You can set it up so it's all tracks.
So are most of the keys you use in those little icons in the top left?
You can make all these icons. Yeah, you can make keyboard shortcuts into icons, or it has. Reaper is highly flexible. You can make it do anything you want it to. It's highly kind of programmable behind the scenes.
Okay.
There's whole things that people do that are called actions that you can do one keyboard and do all sorts of interesting things. You do have to learn them.
Yeah.
And so when but it's not hard to find. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a few comments.
Sure, comment. I'll take comments too.
Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. We've been using Squadcast for our remote recording sessions, and I think you mentioned that.
Yes, that's what we did in the early days.
Yeah. Okay. What are you using now?
Iris.fm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's good.
Okay,
I was
one
going to
you
talk
mentioned.
about these again.
Yeah, that's good. Well, pretty happy with Squadcast, except it's very bandwidth intensive, which causes some problems.
So do you use video?
No, just
Okay.
audio. But we use the video during the recording session so that people can see each other and see their expressions and things like that.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but we don't record the video.
Yeah. We, at times, when someone has bad internet, I have them turn off the video. That usually helps.
Yeah, it does. We had one regular show that we were doing remotely every week that one of the participants had very poor internet. Yeah. So we ended up using Zoom, which produces bad sound. I mean,
yes, horrible sound.
Horrible sound. So a trick that we did is have the participants, and generally they're just two, turn on their voice recorders on their computers.
Yep.
And then I did the editing and send me the files, and I'd sync them up, and that worked amazingly
Yes.
well.
Actually, that is actually another way you can do multi-tracking without using, let's say you want to use clean feed because it's free, and you can have everybody download Ocean Audio, which is the one I recommend. And then what I've always afraid though is sort of like there's this old Cecil B. DeMille joke, ready when you are, CB, after he said, let's go. What if they forget to hit the record button?
Right.
Then you're really stuck.
Yeah, I've always been very careful to make sure people hit record. And so far that's been successful, but who knows? It depends on the person on the other end doing what they're supposed to do. And of course, they're not always totally up to speed on everything.
I'll explain, if I may, before you go on your next comment. I'll explain why we switched from Iris to from Squadcast to Iris.
Yeah.
One, it was less, Squadcast was raising the price. Squadcast was adding all these tools that I had no use for. And it was, unless you paid more, you could only have 4 people. Iris allowed 8 people for approximately the same price you were paying beforehand. And its backup system for in case something went wrong with the recording, which, everything can go wrong in the digital realm, and I've had it happen, is host side recorded. And they do a low res video recording if you want to use that, as well as audio that's single track mono, but if it's the only thing you got, you gotta use it. And that's pretty much the reason why we switched to Iris.
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
Squadcast is.
And like Squadcast, it uses a cloud, so you don't have to have it like Riverside. I don't know if Riverside, but Zencaster has to have you have Dropbox or Google Drive or something.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, continue with your comments.
I would mention Squadcast. They don't have I think the limit on number of participants now is 10. I don't think there's an additional cost for that, but I think we're paying $40 a month for 10 hours of recording.
Okay.
So
you can, just as an example, for 4 hours of recording, we pay $20 a month, and we can have 8 people.
Yeah. I'll take a look at that. It's interesting.
One other thing before we go from this, also you can turn off the producer. They don't have to record the guy who just sits there and presses buttons. Anyway, continue.
That's a nice feature. I wish Squadcast had that. It doesn't. So I just mute myself and turn off my video, and then Anyway, but it does take bandwidth to do that. I was going to mention on the studio end of recording, what has troubled us is mic bleed over.
Yep, that's what this is. What we're talking about.
Yeah, and we've done a lot to try to improve the acoustics in the studio and all that, but it's still bothersome.
It is,
and sometimes requires some extra editing to mute the track of the person who's not talking and things like that. And I'm looking for a better solution to that. And maybe there is not one, but
the solution is getting a mixer that can do multi-track directly into a digital audio workstation.
Yeah, well, we use multi-track recorders, but I think that's the same effect.
Okay, what recorders are you using?
Zoom right now.
Okay, the Zoom recorders. Yeah, those are fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. Yes, it's exactly the same thing as what we're doing now.
Basically, I think so. Yeah.
So I'll give you a little tip on technique that I learned when I was doing radio theater in the studio, is try and turn the trim pot down as low as you can possibly get and still have a good recording. And that helps not picking up bleed through.
Yeah. Yeah,
what I'm saying by the trim pot, there's a microphone gain on every mixer board, so you can crank up. I talked about sensitivity one session where microphones have different sensitivity. And the second thing I would say is use dynamic mics only.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what we use, what do they call it? H400s. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good. They're good mics, and
Mhm.
good vocal response and things like that. But
anyway, you may continue.
And we'll say that one thing that seemed to help in the studio was to go to extremes to prevent echoes. In other words, sound bouncing off walls.
Yes, reverberation.
Reverberation. I found that the sound, the voice picked up from adjacent mics directly without a reflection doesn't seem to hurt the audio that much because there's very little time delay between the two mics. So that's kind of something I think is a good rule, but we're still trying to figure out what the best things are. Also, I wanted to mention that, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Adobe just put something online, which they call, if I can bring it up here, it's on the webpage, remove noise from voice recordings with speech enhancement. And what this is, an online tool that you drag the audio file in there and processes it takes minutes, and does an amazing job at dealing with mic bleed and background noise artifacts and things like that. And I'm still experimenting with it, but I did run one phone interview through it and the audio from phone interview sounded like a phone. It was okay. You could hear it. It's all right, but it sounded like a phone. I ran it through this tool. It sounded like a studio. It was kind of amazing.
It is. It's it's podcast.adobe.com/enhance.
Yeah, exactly.
And I used it for something with Ursula.
Yeah.
They sent it me, and you guys were pretty happy with it, weren't you?
Yeah,
Stephanie?
we were really impressed with it too. We thought it was great.
Yeah.
And but my thing is of course one day Adobe's going to start charging for it.
That's it. Yeah.
So if you get kind of used to using it all of a sudden, and they don't make things cheap.
They're not cheap. Yeah, usually a subscription that you have to keep paying. Yeah. But
so
anyway,
let me talk about that a little bit. The program I use is called Isotope RX, which is a tool that Hollywood studios use, or audio designers, professional audio designers, that can help. It's not a perfect tool. And it does cost a lot of money. I personally have it for radio theater projects, so I've spent over $500 on it. But it has saved my bacon a number of times. Like, it's really good at reducing hum and background sound, and you can actually go in and edit little bits and pieces of sound like you would do with Photoshop. So if you have the budget, I do recommend it.
Yeah. What's it run on?
Anything.
Windows and
Mac and Linux.
Oh, Linux too. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite. I'll take a look at that.
So continue.
See my Linux pen going back there.
Did you have any more comments?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that would like to say or comment on? Or we were to just briefly go over what we were talking about is for our new person, and it's always good to go over these things again. Sure.
I see Alicia has joined us. Hey, Alicia.
Hi, it's wonderful being here. It's been such a long time.
Yes, it has.
I know. I want to make sure it is being recorded, this session, yes. Right? Because yes, I really would like one of our volunteer programmers to really hear it. It's wonderful. It's very informative. So
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
We're recording it.
Okay, you'll be sending it to us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, then I won't go over
again. It's
good
to see everybody, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
So
now, I was sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to make a comment about voice dropout, the latency, I'm sorry. I can usually edit okay, and I use Audacity, but I was in a Zoom workshop and I mentioned an issue with dropout that I've had, and I'm connected directly to my modem. And at my end, I don't know if there's anything else. I don't know if the problem is with my computer, with me, or another issue, and I'll lose stretches of conversation. Everything's frozen on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I need to ask people, stop them and say, can we start from such and such a point?
So let me actually give you some, and this is a good way. What we were talking about with Tom is, I use Iris, he uses Squadcast. Stephanie's thinking about Riverside. There's Zencasters. This is what's called WebRTC, meaning it stands for real-time communication. Now, one of the differences between these and Zoom is what's called host side recording and guest side recording, or at least that's what I call it, guest side recording. So if you have someone who has bad internet, specifically if they're on Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi is notorious for this. Dropouts, zings, zats, all sorts of stuff like that. So what these WebRTC programs do, web apps, is they record on everybody's. It's sort of like what he does with his one special person who's got bad internet, but it's apparently bad on his side. Anyway, is they record on the guest's computer. So it sends it temporarily to the computer's hard drive. And then when you press the stop button, it sends it up to the cloud or to Dropbox or Google Drive or however the WebRTC company does it. So any internet noise, any dropouts are not there. And it's as good as the microphone they're using. The other thing about WebRTCs, because of the competition, there's so many, is they have like 24-bit, which means very high resolution, 48K sound. Zoom is at best 32K sound. Now, I still think they're 16-bit or whatever, but they have a low bandwidth. So that's why it doesn't sound as good. And that means if someone is louder, it's going to clip faster. And so in your case, because Zoom is host side recorded, every little internet noise is going to come across, every dropout. And that's what happens. And then you have to start over again. But with a WebRTC web app, you wouldn't have to do that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever had a problem where, since the recording is happening separately on each computer for each track,
Yes.
have you ever had someone who had a computer who didn't have enough space on their computer to hold a recording?
So far not, but
Okay.
I will give you an example. It says in Irish you can use iPhones and Androids. The problem I discovered and iPads, is most people fill up their iPads and iPhones so much that there's no space.
Yeah.
So we've actually banned them. You're not allowed to use iPhones.
Okay. Yeah.
So what happens is it just doesn't record.
Okay.
And it tells you something went wrong.
That makes sense. People filling up their iPhones with music and stuff.
Yes. And I haven't run into it with a computer yet.
How about in terms of Zoom? I was thinking, well, that'd be cool to have high quality Zoom meetings for our roundtables, but if there's a limit to how many guests I could have, that wouldn't work for that.
Not really.
Okay.
If you want pictures, you can. So Clean Feed, which by the way is host side recorded, which is why I don't use it for interviews. Clean Feed, you can have as many people as you want, but it's audio only.
Right. I mean, and these are kind of informal anyway, so it doesn't have to be like, but
no,
that's just a thought I had. Okay, yeah, that answers that.
I mean, when you have meetings with me and I get 5 people, it's perfect.
Exactly. I like how we're using Zoom to talk about how crappy Zoom is.
Well, I have to say one thing that has helped me with Zoom, and it records audio, video as well, is there have been pretty significant number of times when I've gone back to the video, take a look at what people are saying to see if they really did pause because of a thought that they had or what they were reading, as opposed to just the audio. And I'm not sure what happened. So
in Iris, you get a host side reference recording in video. It's low resolution, so I accidentally used the video when I first used Iris, and it was at high resolution, and one of the person I was doing this with had very low bandwidth, and so it took forever for the video to upload to the cloud. So this is because Zoom is host side recorded, that doesn't happen. But there's a reference recording. I don't know. I can't remember if Squadcast has it. Squadcast had a rather odd way of doing backups, if I remember correctly. Any other comments, questions, or
do you have thoughts on Riverside?
No.
Okay.
I think one thing Riverside has that no other is, I believe it has a phone app that allows you to use, and so people can download that and delete it if they want. So I remember that was one of the reasons, that was one of the things I looked at Riverside and went, it's not really that important, because a lot of people get confused about downloading apps, and then they get paranoid about downloading apps. And but that is one aspect of Riverside, is they have an app, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Yeah, those are the two we're looking at right now, Riverside and Iris. I think Riverside is just a tad cheaper than Iris.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing, just so, not to evangelize them.
Yeah.
When I came back to the college, I was having terrible luck getting online. I think it was because of the firewall. And so I called them up and they said, let's talk. And so on the next Monday, they came in and they helped me fix it.
Oh, wow. Iris did?
Yeah. And they
That's
were in
nice.
Florida. And actually, we kind of helped them because they were doing an update. They did an update.
So they have nice customer service.
Well, they did at the time, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting someone to come in and say, let me plug, do this, do that. Okay,
yeah,
here it is.
That's really good, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did have some weird firewall problems at first, but then the college changed their firewall. They did something, so everything kind of worked out to the best.
Oh, that's good to know. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts about multi-track?
And I'm always available to help, either learning Reaper or learning how to use Iris, I'm always available to help out. I want to help people out.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fun to see kind of you using Reaper in real time too.
Yep.
So how do we get hold of you, Joseph, if we have questions?
My
Do we go
email.
through Stephanie?
You can. I can give you his email if you don't want to
Okay.
say it on
Okay.
the, or you can
Wow,
put it
you're
in the
right.
chat.
Oh, now Stephanie, you can give them.
Joseph, your email
Okay.
is probably on your website too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's easy. Joseph at ksvr.org.
Okay, well, there you go.
I'm available. Go ahead, spam me. Oh, wait a minute, I already do get spammed.
Go to KSVR website then.
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
I think you're a little far from your microphone, Ursula. I think that's maybe why it's hard to hear you. She says no. Okay, whatever.
It's dropping out for some reason. Anyway, if there's nothing else, we can end if you want.
Did you have any other thoughts, Ursula, or maybe you don't want to try? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I do have a question not
Yeah.
related to this topic.
It's okay.
Sure.
I can answer it.
Yeah.
And that is, do all of you have a PSA policy?
In what respect? What do you?
If somebody wants to run PSAs, do you have a policy on what it can and what a PSA can and cannot say?
Well, obviously, what we're a LPFM nonprofit, so it can't have commercial content. You can't be call to action or things like that, the standard stuff. We generally do PSAs on civic activities, events, things that that are going on in the community that people might want to know about. But as far as specific rules, not.
But you don't have a policy. I found we don't at KNSJ, and I found some stations that do. I was wondering if you differentiate between a community calendar and a PSA as far as content. For a PSA, if it's about a rally, which is on a controversial subject, is
we do differentiate. We do differentiate between a community calendar and PSA. Community calendar is something that has a specific time associated with it, an event that's happening on a certain date and time. And so we classify those a little bit differently and handle them differently when we put them in the broadcast schedule.
So if I may.
Go ahead. Yeah.
PSA, which I think the name is on the tin, which is public service announcement, is it should be about something in the public service. Generally, this is how I feel. I don't really have a specific policy, but this is how I feel, is public service, something nonprofit oriented, a community calendar can be both for-profit and nonprofit because it's all wrapped up into one thing. It's a community calendar. You might want to say, there's an event happening here. It could be a political rally, or it could be a carnival. We call it the ACE, Arts, Culture, and Entertainment of the Skagit Valley.
There was voice drop there, Joseph. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Anyway, community calendars can have for-profit and nonprofits involved because it's just a calendar of events that's happening in the area. And we calls our arts, culture, and entertainment. And so we cover whatever's there that's happening, like the Tulip Festival is happening right now. And that's pretty much a lot of for-profit businesses or just that's the difference. So public service announcements are for nonprofits, in my opinion. The other thing I do is I try to turn them into paid PSAs so that they'll actually get played more often than every so often.
Well, someone submitted a PSA, which was about a rally, and it was a controversial event, the rally. And I was, it bothered me because of that, what it was for, as opposed to having it listed as a community, on a community calendar. So for a rally, would you all say that belongs on a community calendar, or okay for a PSA, a free PSA?
Well, this is my opinion, and it's strictly my opinion. If you put it in a community calendar, it becomes neutral. It's just part of a series of events.
Yeah.
If you do a PSA, people tend to think of PSAs as something that you're kind of supporting. And that's my opinion. Anyway, I think I have to go now.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Joseph.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to have you talk with us.
Okay, well, I
Yes,
love
thank
talking
you.
with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, have a great day, and thank you everyone too for contributing to the discussion. It's always great to have questions and comments, and I appreciate you guys coming.
Yes, thank you
So-
very
Yes,
much.
Take
I
care.
appreciate you guys too.
Yes.
Take care.
We'll have a super Thursday, and we'll look for you guys in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next month, right? It's the beginning of the month now, right? The first
Yes, that's
Thursday
right.
of
The
month?
first Thursday of the month. Yep. You
Okay.
bet.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye.
Everyone be
Bye,
safe.
Joseph. Did
Mary,
anyone else want to?
no, just wanted
continue?
to make sure to check with Mary if she got that Edgar's number that you wanted to. Did you get my message through chat where I sent you his?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Just go look at the chat, and there's the number there, because I don't want to put it on the air, do you
Sure.
see the thing I send you? I'll
Okay, I
resend
see it.
Okay.
I
If
got
you
it.
can just copy that, because Edgar wanted you to call him on his cell
Okay.
regarding that PSA question, because he's not here in the office right now. He's gone for the afternoon, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I thought I'd do that, and.
Did you get Joseph's email, Alicia? Do you want me to email that to you?
Yes, if you can, that'll be great. If
Okay,
you-
I'll do that.
That'll be good for me, just so that it'll help one of the persons that we have here, programmers, that is dealing with that. It's foreign language to me, what he was saying, so.
Sure.
But
Yep.
I know that I've heard it enough that it's very helpful for the people that are dealing with that, that-
Absolutely.
yeah, doing Zoom meetings and all that, so. But it's great seeing great. It's good
It's good
seeing
seeing
you,
you
Stephanie.
too. It's good
And
seeing your
I
face.
wasn't sure. I got caught up. As a matter of fact, I told Marie, I'm going to come right in at 1:00. And then Edgar pulled me in to be, he was training someone, and I had to be the guest, with the new
Oh, yeah.
the
You
new
were
trainee
practicing a new,
and all of that
okay.
practicing and
Sure.
all of that. So all of a sudden I looked at the clock and I go, oh my gosh, it was supposed to be only for 3 minutes. And the person, the new trainee was so making, not making mistakes, but, just being so nervous that
Trying
she
to
just had
figure it
to,
out.
we kept doing it over and over, retake. And it got to a point where I didn't realize how late, but it's so great seeing
Oh,
you.
you still made
all.
it.
Yes, I did. And usually Thursdays I have my granddaughter, but I'm going to try now that it's only once a month. I'm going to make sure to have my husband take care of her while I'm dealing with. Yeah, I'm at the office right now. But because we don't have her today. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
it's so say hi
Well,
to
cool.
everybody, to Ursula, and I didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We will.
I will see you next month.
We'll see you next month. Have a good one.
Okay, bye,
Happy
Marie.
spring.
Edgar will explain really well about all of that. He will. See you later.
Bye.